The environment has to be
What we're saying is have a heart.
We've got to be able to regenerate our
There'll be
company.
people who are kind, people who are cruel, but that's life. You can be bigoted about videos. I'm fine with that.
Can we now wrap up? But I'd like to sort of ask all of you whether, as far as gambling is concerned, and I think we should separate casino gambling with internet gambling and look at both. Are the present measures, well, casino gambling, there are no measures at the internet gambling, there's no measures at the moment. But are the measures for casino gambling adequate, or do you think that there are certain things that ought to be done? And for internet gambling, what sort of moves do we need to take in order to control it so that it doesn't get out of hand? And maybe we can start with you and go round, starting with Bryan.
Sure. I think for casino gambling, we've got some of the programs in place. I think what we now need is really monitoring the numbers, trying to tweak that. I think we're looking at tweaks in the programs that as we go along. Data is still coming in. I think we've heard also that some of these effects will take some time before they come to gestation, and then we need to say to respond to that. I would love if we could respond faster, but the way things are, I think we need to see the data coming in. I think for online gambling, that's a very interesting area that we're looking at, because it's currently really free for all, cowboy country type situation. I think there's, like Wai Ming pointed out, there are several options that are worth thinking about. I think one of the things we didn't really talk about is, could there be actually advantages in internet setting that could help the problem, to utilize the internet for some good. So for instance, could the software be written in a way that spots the problem even quicker than what you could do in an offline scenario? Maybe in that sense it could be also thought about. But we certainly look forward to what measures the government will be introducing, because I think that has some effect. And like we've also said, the sense on the ground seems to be that the problem is getting bigger, and we may want to go in right now, especially if we're looking at World Cup coming in June, which is going to be a big betting season, and maybe that's impetus for some of that legislation to be put in place.
Suresh?
Well, on the casinos, I think we have to be careful on the conclusions we draw from statistics. Gambling addiction is not a problem that is unique to casinos. And what our experience in Singapore has been is that with the introduction of casinos, hand in hand, there's gone a program of addressing gambling addiction problems. There's been greater publicity, there's been more funding for organizations which are providing assistance to gambling addicts, and of course this has led to an increase in numbers which may not be directly related to the casinos. So I don't think we should connect the two. That's the first thing. For online gambling, I am a firm believer in the benefits of regulation. The experience in other jurisdictions has been that a prohibition on online gambling has not been very effective. 2012, the Australians did a review of the effects of their Interactive Gaming Act, and they reported that there are 2,200 service providers providing banned services to residents in Australia, and about US $1 billion is being lost every year. So it has not been very effective. I think it's more important that rather than trying to drive the problem underground, you regulate it so that proper controls can be put in place. If you can mandate it so that there is proper controls for identity verification, age verification, logarithms to check to see gambling patterns which may identify people as potential addicts or potential problem gamers, a system where proactive counselling can be addressed to online gamers, just like it's done in a casino. In a casino, most of the croupiers are trained to identify some of the features that may indicate a person is a problem gamer and advise that person to see counselling that's available on site, and even to notify the counsellors to come and try and assist these gamblers in a proactive manner. These are all things that can be done in also in online gaming, maybe to lesser or greater effectiveness, but it can be done. Two of the things that we didn't talk about is regulation of gaming. Online gaming is also important to ensure that the gaming is fair. Wai Ming mentioned how there's actually quite a lot of cheating going on in online gaming. It is a big problem.
Cheating by other players?
By shadowy casino operators running online games, by other operators. There are a lot of scams going on online. It's important to regulate it. There's also, we didn't talk about money laundering. Money laundering is very commonly connected with gambling. It's a very convenient conduit for washing
and
money.
Online gambling is convenient.
And of course, online gambling is just an effective laundromat as any other gambling source. So these are problems that should be regulated rather than driving it underground and putting it beyond the reach of the law.
That's true.
Possibly.
In my opinion, I mean, all those measures have been put up by casinos and to ban people from casinos and all that. In my opinion, they are quite effective. I'm also glad that the government is coming out with legislation to control internet gambling. But one area that is of concern as a counsellor is the easy access to credit. I think that one also the government is looking into the money lenders, into the way the money lenders operate, because credit is very easily available to gamblers, especially when they default with one money lender. They will receive SMS, and you want to borrow some more. It's like wow, no end. I mean, the credit they can get from all sources. So I think that's one area that if they can look into and regulate it, and I think they're coming out with a data bank to summarize all the credit that a person is allowed to borrow. I think that'd be good.
I think on the land-based casino, all the restrictions that we have, whatever we have are quite what we call gold standard that even other countries come to look at. But I feel that some of those measures could be counterproductive in some way. For example, we have the 24-hour rule. If I have had anecdotal evidence of people coming in because they have 24 hours, they made the first, let's say, $5,000 already out of a $100 bet and so on in the first hour. They think that they can, by normal human instinct, you would have taken your money and run. But because they had the balance of 23 hours, they will stay on. And this is a mathematical game. The longer you play, the odds are in favor of the house. You will lose it back and more. So because the 24-hour actually probably encourages people to stay longer in the casino. I am not so sure whether that is a wise move.
Unless they have an escalating charge. The longer you stay, the more you pay.
More than they say they want to win it back, like what Suzann is saying, chasing. I haven't gambled, I lost $100. So I want to make sure that I get it back.
Whatever happens, I must win my $100 back.
How about online gambling?
Online gambling is a totally different topic altogether. I think we can sit here for the next 10 hours and I can talk to you about online gambling. It's a very complex topic, how regulations can be conducted and how, what measures, what Shuras has mentioned are only a small part of that. And I'm involved in a lot of the discussions and I'm also the editorial of the Gambling Law Review, which is a publication of the International Masters of Gaming Law, and we constantly have topics written about all these things. very complex topics, not easy, and I eagerly wait for the government to come up with their recommendation of how. If they ban it, how? If they regulate it, how? You know, all this how has so many facets which are very complex, far more complex than the land-based casinos. Land-based you can touch and feel.
But what do you think is the best solution? Regulation, as you said.
I think regulations has to be there, and a complete ban on gambling. It's like the world is out there. You know, how can you stop? You know, the water from coming in. You know, it's impossible, and the technology are always inventing. So you need to have some regulations. Outwardly banning it, even in USA now, although they have banned the internet gambling in America, several states, and they are all what they call state legislation, they allow online gambling. So there are about 3 or 5 states already legislated online gambling in America. So you will find that some of this state also want to earn money, and you have all these issues about why Singapore was motivated to start the casino is because of economic reasons. And if you want it for economic reasons, then you've got to pay a price for it. So where do we strike the balance? I don't have the answer. I do not know where the balance is, to be honest.
Suzann.
In my opinion, besides imposing all the regulations, I felt that the government can do a great part by setting up more counselling center, train more counsellor for the support group, because as far as this is concerned, all these gamblers and whatever, they really need long-term support, and this long-term support doesn't come in easily like that. They need to be trained, all the counsellor. So government can do something over this area. And on the gambling part, I think we can give them some education that start from schools. I don't know how they're going to do it, but since most of them, the gamblers on this online gamblings are the younger age, maybe the government can come up with some ideas, on how to educate the younger one from school, and from there on, we start from there to minimize it. I'm not sure. That's what my opinion.
Dick?
Well, as far as online gambling is concerned, I think instead of allowing it to be free for all, it'd be good to introduce something like certain cap with regards to credit limit. Select only certain operators and cap the amount to be involved as a wager. Okay. And with regards to casino, I think I know I've been hearing from a lot of these gamblers coming to seek help at our center. The $100 levy is not enough.
How much
Mr. Lee Kuan Yew said,
Not enough.
he does not believe that it is a good idea for people to expect to get rich by luck, and therefore he actually said this, that we should have made it at $500. Yeah.
And I think that's enough. Yeah. Gamblers will still take the gamble.
But certain people will be affected nonetheless, because if you raise it, And then on the point of exclusion orders, I think you don't have to wait until someone who is 21, then you bar him from, to exclude that guy. Now, a lot of gamblers start very young, and it would be good if, the government were to consider allowing parents to bar the children, known to be gambling, from entering the casino even before 21. This is important.
But they're not allowed that there.
No doubt. Yes, I know they are not allowed, but I'm talking of barring them. Yeah.
After they cross the age of 21.
Yeah.
But they can.
So that they can actually apply to bar them before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. But you can.
But right now, can they?
Under the Act, you can. Whether the panel will do so is another question.
If the Act actually allows that, but not many people are aware that there's such provision for parents to take.
Those falls within,
the younger people are not allowed in.
They're not allowed in, so you must see some what they call propensity to be a risk factor, and then they will come before your panel of 3 person, and you decide. The law is there, but
then there will be a lot of downstream work.
I would say that the family exclusion order, if you look at the universe of exclusion orders, the family exclusion orders is actually very small. Like in terms of numbers, it's the smallest group that is granted. So I mean, all these voluntary exclusion orders are much larger in number, and of course the exclusion orders mandated by legislation for the bankrupts, and the casinos block their own people that they don't like. All those are much bigger in terms of numbers. Family exclusion orders, I think by itself may help in individual cases, but on a society level, I don't think the numbers are significant enough.
And then another point I want to raise, just one more point, and that is criminalizing overstaying. Yeah. There's a law that's been passed now that any overstaying gamblers, staying beyond 24 hours, they will be fined the moment they step out of the. But then the fact here is this, renewal for the re-entry pass is being offered inside the casino, and let's be very frank. Would Singaporean want to pay a fine of up to $1,000, or would they just pay $100 to renew? Certainly we would, just pay the $100. Now, having paid that renewed ticket, that renewal pass,
Stay for 48.
would they stay just for the next minute or two and go off and say, I'm tired already? No, counselors will tell you they will stay
to get the money's
further,
worth, right?
to get the money worth. Exactly, you got a point there. And I think it's important that any renewal of entry pass should not be allowed within the casino, so that once you cross out, you get fined, and the people will learn the lesson from there.
Dr. Winslow.
As far as internet gambling is concerned, I agree that there should be regulation, but as mentioned before, it is way too complex now to go into all the details of it. So, but I think that it will come, and it has to take place at some level. You can't leave it unregulated, and you can't ban it. So it requires some regulation. In terms of the casino regulation so far to protect people in Singapore, compared to most countries, I think we actually have done a fair job of trying to protect our own society and our own Singaporeans. As can be seen, that a large number of the big wages and a large number of the people coming in are actually from outside the country. I think we just need to build on what we already have in terms of making tweaks to certain things and making it easier for if you realize you have a problem, make it easier for people to self-exclude. I know they said that it is easy to just self-exclude, but you need a SingPass and you need to be computer savvy. Whereas if you're a foreigner, you can just fill out the form and that's it. You're excluded. So that would be one of the things. But there are a lot of small things that go along those lines that should be looked at.
Mabel.
I think we should really differentiate between social gamblers and problem gamblers. For example, I guess the casino is actually getting us a lot of economical benefits, but a lot of these benefits actually came from, for example, tourists. And tourists actually, normally they don't stay in Singapore for too long, so it's hard for them to get addicted. But I think for locals, Singaporeans, I do think we need some regulations to make sure they don't get addicted somehow. But I guess for both casino and internet gambling, I think we really should find ways to regulate them. But of course, for internet gambling, it's much harder to differentiate between who are those problem gamblers, who are not. But I think there's some basic thing we can do in our education, because most of the problem gamblers, I think they cannot stop partly because they believe they can earn eventually, they can win things back eventually. But I wonder how many of them actually know that in a long-term perspective, most of the games actually only give you about half of the return rate. So every dollar you put in the game, you probably, in average you get probably less than 50 cents back. So if this concept is built in our, say, children's mind since they're young, I think that can probably stop them from, they can probably gamble as an entertainment, just like we go to movies, we have to pay, right? We go to theme park, we have to pay. So if we pay for entertainment and within our capacity without affecting our daily life, I think that's actually okay. But we should find ways to stop the addiction happen within the society.
Okay. Thank you. Just quick round. One sentence or one word So are the current measures working? The current regulations on gambling working in Singapore?
I think we should set
just one sentence or one word.
Right.
Go ahead.
Set an upper limit of the money you can gamble.
No,
based
are
on
the
income.
measures that the government has implemented so far on gambling to control gambling working?
Partially, but I think it can be refined. Yeah.
Dr. Winslow?
Yes.
Some improvement needed to be made.
Some improvement needed to be made.
I think it's working.
Yeah, me too. I think it's working.
Well, you said to control gambling. I mean, are we talking about controlling gambling or controlling gambling addiction or addressing problem gaming? I would say that we actually have a very robust regime addressing problem gaming. In some aspects, I think it's actually gone a bit overboard. No system is going to be perfect, but I do think we have a very robust system.
Can be better.
All right, with that, good night. Thank you for being with us.
Thank
you.